Today we're going to start by what are we going to learn about diagnosing car problems. Now you can see on here these wet spots. There's a bigger one, here's one, and you can see these little tiny ones and they trail out to the road. Okay, the first time I saw it, I said, well, it could be after that rain, just hadn't had a chance to dry. Well, we've had lots of rain too the last couple of days, and yet we still have these here. So, a couple days ago, after it had dried and I still had these spots, I decided, well, I think I better investigate this because it's going all the way down the driveway. So I put my finger in it. And the reason why I did is because I had to determine a lot of things. First of all, I was pretty sure it came from the car. My moped had not been out, and I would have had a serious problem on the road if I had something leaking like this on there. Several things it could have been. It could have been gas. You could have a leak in the tank. It could be antifreeze leaking out of a radiator. It could be brake fluid because we had just had our brakes fixed as well. It also could be oil. Something wrong with the oil. And we had just had that recently changed too. So I said I better look in the garage. Sure enough, I found more of them in the garage. And when I touched it, I realized it did have an oily feel to it. And as you can see, it doesn't have a blue-green color to it. And sometimes when light hits that blue-green liquid, it kind of makes like a rainbow, but the rainbow lays right on the ground. So I knew it wasn't antifreeze. And really, you can rule out gas right away, too, because gas can fall onto the cement, and with evaporation, it dries right out. And you'd never know the gas was there. So we knew it couldn't be a gas. So then it left with brake fluid and oil. And so we set the car out and found a place where there was no spots to see where the oil or brake fluid was coming from. And when we opened up the hood, we could look straight down and we could see it actually was the oil filter. Had not been screwed on properly all the way. And so that's what made our leak. So those are very good things that you need to know when you're trying to self-diagnose a problem. A little thing like that, if you had taken that in, would have cost you a minimum of $25. So we saved ourselves $25. Could have been more, because you never know what they would have done to claim that they needed to check when they really did not need to check it. So it's very good to know all you can about your cars and what can leak out of them and what can't, what it's going to most likely look like, and where it's most likely going to come from. So that is how we figured out what this problem was. Okay, here we're going to learn more about cars and driving. Now, this is our wheel. And you can see how these little indentations are. They got to be about the depth of a Lincoln's head on a dime. And you can see they're all really good. No problem there. Nice and smooth. And you'll see it's just the same in here. We don't have any balding or anything of that nature going on. And you'll see it is real good here as well. And here. Now, this is important to check. You need to check them very often. They recommend every time you take it out, but we're all in our vehicles all the time. So You should at least check them at least once a month. And it's a good thing to know about your tires, because I was taking my car into the shop and I had decided I would double check, because I knew sometimes they like to look for problems. And sure enough, they were trying to tell me that these perfect tires needed to be replaced when they did not need replacing. So you've got to be your own advocate. Now, say that this tire, when you pulled along the road and it was flat. Okay, this here's where you could pump air into it if you have one of those portable air pumping devices. And you would just blow the air into here. And that would be like a temporary fix until you could get it into a mechanic. Otherwise, if you don't have one of those things, you would then take out of your trunk. Here's our trunk. Not clean, but that's what trunks are like. And underneath here, you'll see our wheel. That's a temporary wheel only. You can only use it to get yourself out of a bad situation along the highway. And then you can see in the middle, that's what they call the jack. And that big flat section at the top, that's what goes under the car. Now for ours, we have little metal pieces under this area here, and you put it underneath there. You crank that thing up, and then you get it so that there's no pressure on the tire whatsoever. And when you do this, be sure you're on a flat surface, because once you get that car hoisted up and you're on a hill or a slight little decline, the car could roll right over the top of you, give you a nice broken leg at the minimum, but probably kill you at the same time. So you have to be wise when you're doing these projects. Now, after you've got it all put up on the jack, then these are what they call the lug nuts. And what you do is you loosen this one, you skip this one, you loosen this one, skip this one, and then you loosen this one. And then you go every other one again until they're all loosened. And then the reason for that is you want the tire will tilt, and you want it to be even as it comes off, because you don't want any problems. So once you get it all loosened up and taken off, then you're going to have to put it back on, your other tire. So you do the reverse procedure. You take this one off, you put the next one on, and then you hold it so it stays in an up vertical position, and then you do every other one. And you just screw until you get it flush with the tire rim and right up there snug. Make sure these lug nuts are tight, because if they're not tight, they will have a problem and the wheel could come off. And that wheel comes off before you get to a place to have it fixed, you could be in a serious accident and cause other people to be in accidents. And you don't want that. You can get yourself killed in a hurry that way. So that's how you change a tire, how you check the tire. Now say you're driving along the road and you hear like a flapping noise. That is an emergency. You should pull over to the side of the road. Generally, more of a flap noise is because you got a tear in the tire somewhere. It could be on the outside, it could be on the inside where you can't see it. You need to check the whole thing. Oh, and by the way, be sure to crank your car down before you drive away. You wouldn't want to try going anywhere with your car jacked up. Now say you're driving along and you hear thumpity thump thump, or you hear thump thump thump. That's generally a flat tire. That means you're probably riding on the rim a little bit. You don't want to do that. This would be your rims. You don't want to do that for very long. You can ruin your whole wheel and everything, and you have to get the whole thing replaced. And you don't want to do that. So anyway, you would pull over, check your tire, and then follow the instructions for changing the tire. Now this one, see, does appear to be a little soft. You see that? Okay, we actually have an air compressor. Let's see if I can find it here quick. And then I can show you how. Yep, I see it here. Let me get that set up, and I'll show you how to undo that valve stem and put air in there. Okay, now I have the air compressor, and this is a special air compressor because Dad designed it, and he was able to bring it home and keep it, and so it does a real nice job. Now you can get air at gas stations. Generally you can get it for free, but not always. Now let me show you just how simple this is. You just come over here to the valve stem, you give it a good turn. See, we got that exposed. Put the cap in your pocket. Then we'll turn this on. Okay, that looks good. Now we got a quick go like that. And folks, that's all there is to it. Now we'll take a little break and I'll put this all back and then we'll continue on with what we got. Oh, and the other thing too, you can sometimes your pressure can be written here on the tire. Sometimes it's in your door panels. You do not want to exceed the pressure because it can explode and you can get injured terribly. You don't want overinflated tires because that can also cause problems when you're driving. Properly inflated tires improve the quality and mileage per gallon on your gas. So it's important to take a look. Okay, now we've got that problem solved. I'll also keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't get soft again overnight. Now as you're driving along, you need to know how your car sounds. You can hear things and maybe detect problems sooner than waiting until they get so bad that you wonder if it's worth saving the car. So if you know exactly how your car sounds, you can do a whole lot better. And a lot of the sounds, squeaks and stuff, are normal because of the car as it ages. That will do that. Also, you need to know where everything is in your vehicle. Nowadays, this is a 2003, so we do not have some of the new gadgets that everybody has now, but there's still quite a lot of them. And when you get in and you're first learning to drive, you need to know your vehicle very well, because as you're driving down the road, you have to be watching your gauges and indicators, signs along the road. You got to know where every piece of equipment is in your vehicle, because sometimes an emergency can come up and you got to be prepared for it. So right here is the parking lights and headlights is all right here. It's kind of hard to squeeze in here, but that's what that is. I made the mistake of buying a car and not asking them where the lights were, so I couldn't drive home when it came time to leave because I didn't know where the lights were. So very, very good to know where everything is. Now this pops our trunk. This is a parking brake release. This is our emergency brake release. This is the hood release. This pedal here is your brake. Should not go down more than about 1 inch or so. It should never go down clear to the floor. You go clear to the floor or within a 1/2 inch of that floor, you're in dire straits. That means you have little to no brakes and you can be killed for something like that. Now this is your gas pedal here. And this, I want to tell you, is an automatic vehicle, so you only will have your gas and your brake. Now if you have the standard stick shift where you have to switch the gears manually, over here would be somewhere near here would be a clutch. Now you can have your shifting column be here in the middle, but as you can see, ours is up here. Could also be indicated on the steering wheel itself. Usually if it's on the floor, it's a standard stick, but not necessarily. Now, right here is your speedometer and your odometer readings. Over here, right here is your engine, hot and cold. Fuel door, whether that's locked up or not. Let me see. Kind of got a little goofy here. I don't have a picture. Oh, there we go. Okay, gotta just aim it at the right place. Well, technical difficulties, hold on. Hi everybody, technical difficulties are fixed. You also see the fuel gauge here, and over here is your climate control, entertainment center. And I always recommend when you're just starting to drive, don't have any music on, because you need to be focused solely on the driving. Okay, now let's go in and get underneath our hood here. Okay, now this is under our hood. First of all, we'll do some identification. This is the battery. See? Okay, and you can see where the cables are going on. There. Okay. Now this is our air filter system for the engine. Okay, now in and amongst this area here is actually our radiator. It's going to be right under there. That cools our machinery up. This is our fan belt for the engine stuff. Right here is washer fluid. Right here. And I'm not sure for sure what this one is right now. We also have our oil and our dipstick for the oil. Okay, and then this is your engine, carburetor, all of that kind of thing. Most everything is computerized now, so you have to be very careful. And as you can see, that white thing underneath there, that was what was not screwed on properly and was leaking the oil. Okay, now with the battery here, you see, you hear the car go and just goes and then nothing. You might get a click, but that's about it. Maybe it could be your battery. You might have had a light on inside the car, a door was ajar, something in that nature, and drained your battery. And when you jump the car battery, you're going to need to have either a battery charger like we have, or you can jump with another car. So what you have to do is you take your jumper cables and you're going to go with the color codes, the red on the red and the black on the black. Let's see if you can see my finger here. Yeah, there you are, right on the black. And you can see there's no corrosion here, so we know wouldn't be the problem if we were having a battery problem. And then once you get hooked here, you hook it up on the other one, they start their car, let the energy flow into your car, then you start your car. Then after you start your car and it turns over, then you let it run for a while, and then you take it in to get it checked without turning that motor off, because you will not maintain a charge. You also can hear, if you hear absolutely no click, but you can hear an it could be your starter or alternator. And they are all part of your electrical system that starts the engine. So all different things that you can check into. But we're looking pretty good in here. Everything looks nice and clean as you can get for a car engine anyway. That looks pretty darn good for a 14-year-old vehicle. So anyway, there's some of the basics that you need to know for underneath the hood. Anything more complicated than that, either you get your own training or you have someone that knows what they're doing, they can tell you how to do it, or you can take it to a mechanic and they can take care of it for you too. It's not like years ago where you could easily change your own spark plugs and stuff like that. So that's the end of the driving video and car maintenance. Oh, I wanted to be sure to add about the oil. You can check it yourself. It's real easy. You just pull the stick out, you wipe it off with a cloth, and then you stick it back in, and you push it in real tight, and you pull it back out. And as you can see, we're just past the minimum, so we're okay for right now. We do not need oil. Oil changes, your manufacturer will let you know. It's usually every 3,000 miles, especially if you're doing highway mile driving, or more city mile driving. But in our case, we don't do much of either. So we do it about once a year, and from that oil leaking, I can tell we got a pretty good oil in there, so we will probably try and let it go a year and a half. You don't want to go too long, because if you do, you can run into engine trouble. And let's show you that dipstick again. See, that oil is not black in any way. If that was black and cruddy, that's when you need to go ahead and get that taken care of. So that's all I know about cars. It's just the basics in case of an emergency. So that's it for now. Okay, everybody, the next chore for today is string trimming. Dad went and mowed the lawn, and you know when you get close to a house, you can't get the grass right up to it. I'll show you here, over here by the shed. We'll take our tool with us. Oh, here, we'll take it right here. See this here? The grass right up. See, it's up pretty high. So we're going to actually use this tool and get rid of it. Now, what we have here is what they call a string trimmer. They can also call them a weed eater, weed whacker, you know, depending on the company. But let me show you what it looks like. See there, that round edge? Right up, your holding pole. And here is your control unit items. Get a better angle here. You got safety tools here. You have to push this button in and this one in order for it to run. This is our battery charger unit. And what you do is once you have it turned on, I won't turn it on now or you'll never hear me. Most of your yard work tools are allowed. This is a battery operated one. There's also gas and electric. So we like this one. It's pretty well light and easy to use. So what you do is you pick it up. Of course, you got your stuff on the control. You use your opposite hand to hold on here and steady it. And then, let me see if you can see it best. Let me show you down below here. And you just go back and forth like this. And there is a string attached on the bottom that does all the cutting. Now I'm going to flip it over here. Right here. This is the string here that does the trimming. It flies around and cuts everything up. You also can squeeze this here and you can pull this top off and you can extend the string. So this is actually too short, so that's what I will be doing here in a minute. I'll need both hands for that, but it's just more or less right here, and you pull the top off and you pull this out. And that's all you need to know about a weed whacker basically, other than stuff flies out of there real fast. So you got to be very careful with your feet and with your eyes. I always wear my outdoor glasses so that if anything does fly up, it hits them and not my good indoor dress pair. Sometimes you might need goggles depending on what you're working on. So here it is. That's our next job. We got about 20 minutes before I got to start supper.